And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Love Seniors, sponsored by Aetna Medicare Solutions on PHLV Radio and the PHLV Network. Good evening, everybody. My name is Richard Aguila, and it's great to have all of you with me tonight. And I want to greet everybody from all over the world that are tuning in tonight. I want to say hello to the people in the Middle East, in Dubai. Hello, everybody in the UK. Hi, everybody in the UK. Also here locally in Las Vegas, in California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, our friends in Houston, Texas, our friends in Florida, and of course New York, and not to forget upstate over there in Oregon and Seattle. So I want to greet everybody. A very, very happy evening to everyone. Much anticipated episode tonight. Wow. I really wanted to focus on retirement in the Philippines and what does that look like. And I thought it was just going to be one show. Well, much to everybody's, delightful surprise, here is part 2 of our series. There may be number 3. Watch out for that. But, we had a lot of people just pour in with they're so excited. I so need this information. This is information that we could have used. There's information that we need. And so tonight, I'm going to bring on some just incredibly knowledgeable people. Please don't leave it up to me. I am merely just the vehicle for the message, and I'm so honored to have again with us Mr. Peter Data. Hello, sir. How are you? How you feeling?
I'm doing very well. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang gabi.
Here again.
Yes, sir. And good looking as usual. I see that you are donning our Barong Tagalog. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're looking good. You're looking good. I like that. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Peter Odata is the CEO and founder of ProPod Business Consultancy. And I tell you what, I so admire this guy. 36 years. I'm not dating you at all. I'm not aging you, right? 36 years. 36 years and counting in the real estate field, and he has traveled the world, including the United States, and helped hundreds upon hundreds of people realize their dream of owning a piece of property or condominium in the Philippines. And, very, very knowledgeable man. And I really appreciate you being with us again tonight. And as I understand, you were formerly an executive with both Mega World and Ayala. Is that correct?
It's Mega World, Century Properties.
Century Properties.
And Catalan.
Yeah. But you have a wealth of knowledge, which we will get to right now. The number one question that's always asked, and where our kababayans get really, really hit hard when they get ready to, let's just say they're getting ready to make that final payment on a property in the Philippines, or maybe just starting out, is they never think about, because they're all so focused, they're so fixated on this, beautiful advertising, and they got this really good-looking person doing the presentation and very charismatic, as you had said in our last broadcast, and they're just mesmerized. And where do I sign? Where do I sign? How fast can I get into this situation? And they don't think about is it actually legal for me and my status right now as an American citizen, although I was Philippine born or I'm Philippine descent? Is it actually legal for me to own this, to actually buy this? That's something that people really don't think about. And anyway, sir, using your expertise, please give us enlighten us on what that is, on what people should look for.
Okay. I have something here for you guys. I think it's easier to illustrate. What I have here is a house and lot.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Right. The house and lot normally, when you're about to retire, you look for a property where you could live in, where you already have like visions of what you intend to do when you go back to the Philippines.
Right.
Um, but first, the first step in preparing basically is that you don't just buy house and lot 5 years before. You buy when you are about to come home. All right.
Yes.
However, if you really want to invest in your provinces, I suggest that you buy a land where you could build your home in the future. Because if you are gonna buy a house and lot right away, when you are just retiring in 3 to 5 years, you have to consider the wear and tear of the house, and the house depreciates. So therefore, best thing to do is to buy the land and develop it. However, in buying a land, you have to consider the following. Um, Number one, you need to know if the title is legit. You have to do due diligence. The title, it's either um, you have the TCT. It's called TCT. Okay, the TCT is it means to say that that's ready for transfer. However, you need to find out also if the property you're buying, as represented by a relative or not, is a CLOA or a tax debt. Uh, Always remember, as a former Filipino, you are entitled to purchase at 1,000 square meter of a property. All right, not exceeding 1,000 square meters. However, you just be careful with the titlings because if it is declaration, it's normally cheaper. However, the transfer of the title will be under you, and there's like a long process, and there's a risk there.
Right.
So I don't suggest that you buy a property that only has a tax debt. It should be titled. Number two, if they have CLOA, CLOA means um, certificate of land awarded title. All right. This is basically granted by DAR, Department of Agrarian Reform, where they are supposed to keep the property. It's awarded to a Filipino, where they keep it for the next 10 years. That's the only time they could sell the property. Always remember, if this CLOA title, then make sure that it has exceeded 10 years. Okay? They cannot sell a CLOA property less than 10 years. It is to your risk if you get it at a cheaper price and they promise that they sell this to you. And also, when it comes to titling, just make sure that there's only one signatory, but because of your absence, you wouldn't afford to fix all the papers unless you get a good broker to fix it. Kasi kapag ang titulo ay minana sa magulang ng nagbebenta and there are like 8 siblings of them, each one need to sign. Okay? Kapag may isang hindi
Yes.
po pirma dyan, that's already a trouble.
Yes.
All right. So, ibig sabihin, I'm talking about a raw land you buy from an individual person. So, mas maganda kung papahawak din sa brokers. Now, what's safer to do if you want a house and lot, then you buy a property from a developer. It should be an existing, a non-developer, an existing development where they guarantee the title of the land. Okay. So, however, it's always good to buy. Let's say, for example, you're retiring in 3 years' time. That's the time when you start looking for a property. And when you find it, then you still you could pay it in 2 years without interest, so you don't have to shell out all your money. And that there would be a chance for you, there would be a smooth transition and transfer of title under your name. So you wouldn't have trouble when you come in. But just make sure that the house is newly built by the time you come in. Do not buy an old house. And probably if you entrust it to a relative to be a caretaker, that's not enough because the wear and tear, you know naman the climate here. Every now and then bumabagyo, every now and then nagkakaroon ng problema ang weather natin. So madaling masira ang property. Okay. Now, the other thing is if you are not yet ready to settle in the Philippines, there are two options. Here. Okay. Sorry. Here. I'm showing you birdhouse. One is an RFO and the other one is pre-selling. All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about RFO first. What is RFO? An RFO is a property that is ready for occupancy. Let's say a condominium. Someone would come to you and they tell you that it's ready, you can buy it, you could hold it, you could use it. If you don't really need it yet, you don't need an RFO. In finding an RFO property, you should always ask how long has the property been there? Because normally, kapag RFO yan yung mga property na hindi nabebenta. Okay? Hindi pa siya nabebenta, natapos na yung project, at hindi pa siya nabebenta, then they try to sell it and they term it as RFO.
I see.
Ibig sabihin, sometimes other developers, they offer them like 2 years or 3 years to pay. Okay? But if you're gonna pay this for 3 to 4 years before you could occupy, you could imagine by the time you're ready, the property is already owned. Okay? So RFO can be good if you need it immediately. You're about to go home or you're buying it for a relative or for your family. It's good to buy an RFO. But if it is for you, and if you were thinking of buying an RFO so you could rent it right away, if you have the cash, that's good enough. But if you're going to borrow the money, forget it. If you were thinking the rental money that you're going to make here would allow you to pay your monthly amortization, it's not a smart decision either. So what makes RFO good is kapag kailangan mo na, kapag gagamitin mo na.
Yes.
Pero kapag hindi pa, di ba, don't. But when you're buying an RFO, make sure that the property is only like 2 years old or 1 year old. But when you start buying like a 3-year-old property, maraming considerations yan. Pagka RFO, you have to pay it in cash. Or you have to, when you intend to borrow money from the bank, you could borrow money from the bank, but you start paying the interest.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you are not going to use it immediately, then you have to start paying the association dues. And when you buy an RFO, you want to check if they are updated with their association dues, with the electricity, and then the water. All the bills are paid, and the title is already under the name of the seller. Okay? Ang ibig pong sabihin nun, kunyari po ako, bumili ako ng property. Normally, the agents that goes to US are represented by their own companies. So therefore, the property is still under the name of the developer. Okay. Ang advantage mo doon, if it is under the name of the developer, it would only mean to say that you don't have to pay for the capital gain tax, which is about 6%.
I see.
Okay, ibig sabihin nun, kasi once the property has been transferred to your name, okay, and you sell it, automatically you pay the capital gains tax. But if it is still under the name of the developer and you intend to flip it or sell it to another person, don't make it transfer under your name. Ipa-transfer mo na lang diretso sa pangalan ng buyer mo so that you don't have to pay for the capital gain tax. Okay.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So don't when you are buying ang advantage ng kasi ang dami ko na encounter ng mga buyers sa US. I want something that's ready and then I'm gonna borrow money in the bank. I mean, that's good for US but not here. Yeah. Especially if you don't live in the Philippines. If you don't live in the Philippines, always put into consideration who will take care of your property.
Absolutely.
Will lease it out. You have to consider the homeowners association dues because it could easily pile up.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not going to use it yet, I do not suggest you buy an RFO. If you were thinking that you buy this and then so that you could enjoy the rental income, it's okay for as long as you're paying it out of your own pocket. But if you're going to borrow money in the bank, forget it. As if wala kang binili. You just added obligation into your pocket. Okay?
True. Yes.
The next one is this, pre-selling. The advantage of buying a property under pre-selling is that you get to enjoy the appreciation. Mm-hmm. All right? It could go as much as 30 to 40% by the time it's finished. Depende kung kailan mo binili. For a condominium, it will take 5 years bago mo siya ma-turn over. Okay, so if you bought it at that time and it was launched, then you could enjoy about 40%, more or less, based on experience. But way back 1990s, it goes as high as 200%. Things have changed now. 40%, you'll be lucky if you get 50%. But the safest to assume is 30%. Pero kung 2 years ago na lang matatapos ang project, probably 25 to 30%. Okay?
Yeah.
So you get to pay minimal amount, as I said before, when you're buying pre-selling as much as possible, buy at least, pay at least 20%, 20 to 25% before turnover. If you intend to borrow money from the bank, but at least even if you pay the 70% through your, if you pull out equity at 70% of the turnover balance, it's okay because the property is already yours. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's appreciated because it was pre-selling, right, at that point. So
yes, it was pre-selling. At pre-selling, you get it at a cheaper price, and you're
Yeah.
enjoying the appreciation value of the property. Okay. Now, by the
Yes.
time it's turned over to you, it's best that you keep the property in the next 5 years maximum. But the rule in real estate is that never fall in love with your property.
Right.
Don't make the mistake that I made the last time. Because when I bought my first condominium,
Yeah.
I thought that it was already a dream come true. I bought a property at the 71st floor. It's the tallest in the Philippines.
Yes.
And I spent so much money and made it like all my dreams, like a bachelor. I put so many things, all the expensive things. I don't want anyone to use it. I don't want anyone to touch it. So I didn't have it rented out. I just love to keep it. And it was the biggest mistake. It was my first. I've been paying I don't mind paying the association dues. But 3 years after I came to realize it was already a non-performing asset. I didn't want to let go, but at the same time, there's no use for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are going to buy a property, make it nice, reasonably nice, attractive to potential tenants, because everything is visual here. That's where Z could make that possible to you.
Yeah.
You need to set a specific budget so that it becomes attractive when you put it under Airbnb,
Right.
or you want to
Keep
rent
their
out.
money.
Okay. So, ang ibig sabihin nun, when you rent it out, you don't spend so much on the interiors, just good enough, because there's still a wear and tear. Diba? So you could enjoy a higher rental income. Okay?
Yes.
But of course, you need someone to take care of the property by the time it expired. Someone has to take care of it again because you need to refurbish and I think tuturo ko na naman si Zed.
You know,
So-
I can't. You know, I hear the and I'm sure when you were here, you know, spending your time in the United States, you hear the same stories that I do, and it's the same stories from different people. And yun nga, you know, they always like, okay, well, alagaan ng aking auntie or kapatid or you know,
Yeah,
somebody,
that is start of a problem.
right, and it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because, you know, it's the blame game. Like, oh, hindi nila inisakaso yun, or, you know, they didn't watch this or they didn't pay that, right?
Yeah.
And that is a very, very, you know, common story. So, you know, and it's and most of what happens, and you talked about this, our kababayans, most of the time when they're out looking for properties, or they're not really looking for a property, but, you know, somebody just charismatic comes along, they meet in the mall and they wind up signing on the dotted line. It's a very emotional decision. It's not, you know, they don't think
Yes.
about the business behind the
Yeah.
decision,
Money.
like, you know, like the consequences. You're right. The dues. Well, guys, what would you say? I don't know. What right now? What would be the average dues? Like on the low side and the high side. If you just bought let's just say a studio condo. Let's start with that. What are we looking at?
Okay.
maintenance, the
Okay,
association dues?
it's from for the mid below. I think it's about 100 to 150
100
pesos per.
per square meter.
Yeah, about 100 to 150 per square meter.
Okay.
But for high end, it would cost you like from 180 to 300, depending
Okay.
on the type of development
Right.
that you bought.
So the more
I remember one of
amenities,
the
right? The more amenities and the more bells and whistles, then you're gonna pay the higher.
If it's a
Yeah.
commercial condominium, I think it's more expensive compared to a
yes,
residential condominium.
Yeah.
right. On the residential condo, like I think the most expensive condo that I paid monthly is about $450 a month.
Good Lord.
Yes,
That's a car
that's
payment
what,
here.
especially if it piles up.
you know
Oh, gee,
that's
yeah,
a Tesla payment here.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
why it's good to buy a property, especially when you buy a condominium in the Philippines. They are very fancy
Yeah.
and they're so inviting. But
You're
I
right.
think the first thing that you need to understand when you buy a property is first you have to know your purpose. If it's gonna be for rental,
Yes.
then it has to be clear to you that it comes
You're
with
right.
responsibility, with association dues,
You're
the
right. You're
leasing,
right.
and the maintenance, and then you
Mm-hmm.
need to have like a broker that would uh, take care of your
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
And also, when you're buying a property and you want to rent it out, the first thing that you should ask is, do they allow Airbnb?
Yes.
Okay. If
Yes.
there are like 1,500 units in one condominium and
Right.
they allow Airbnb, it
Yeah.
may sound good to you, but remember there could be 1,000 people asking
Yeah.
the same question because they have the
Now,
same intention.
now is that Peter? Is that something like let's just say I'm looking at my contract. Is that something that should be? I would suppose that would be in the contract if they're allowed to or not, right? Or
It it when you own a property, you have it is to your own disposal.
okay,
However, when it comes to the restrictions, it's always the association that determines
okay,
whether they
okay,
would allow it or not. Because if you happen to fall in a condominium that allows Airbnb, and then you try to post it
yeah,
in Airbnb, and there are like 1,000
yeah,
people
mm-hmm,
trying to rent it out in Airbnb,
yeah.
forget about it.
Oh man.
Diba?
So for instance, I'll give you an example. So let's just say they're pre-selling. Now it's turnover time after 3 years. They have the full intention of Airbnb-ing this thing and making some money, right? They have the full intention of doing that. And there is no association set up yet because there's not enough residents. What do you do? And let's just say all of a sudden the association is set up right, and let's just say they say no Airbnb allowed.
Okay. When there's no normally the association is being formed when 70% of the units has been turned over. So
Right,
the
right,
condominium corporation,
right,
corporation association has been formed.
right.
However, in the absence of the association yet,
Mm-hmm.
the absence of the officers yet, the developer takes charge of the property management. So, hindi
How
naman
many
lahat.
years, Peter? How many years does the developer are in charge of the association, basically? Of the
Yeah,
condominium?
yeah. Good question.
There are some
Typically,
developers that actually has their own property management team.
okay.
Okay. But there are some developers that doesn't have a property management team. So therefore, the property management team is appointed by the condominium corporation, which is composed of the
I see.
unit
I see.
owners.
Okay.
They decide
Okay. Yeah.
for the security and maintenance of the
Okay.
whole building.
Yeah.
So if
Because,
it
for
is turned
example,
over,
federal land, they do not allow pets. And that
yeah,
is actually a general rule of federal properties. But
okay,
then for
Wow. Really?
condominiums, for condominiums that of course have been under the homeowners, they can decide whether they would allow dogs or not. Am I right?
the
So their
association.
question now is how many years will the developer be in charge of the association of the company?
No, actually,
of the condominium, I mean.
the developer would normally turn over. They have to turn over the management. The I'm sorry. Uh, they have to turn over to the condominium corporation uh, the property. All right, and the condominium corporation are the ones that decides when it comes. They are the policy making body.
I
Yes.
see.
Okay.
Okay.
So therefore, unless there's a presence of the developer in the condominium corporation, that doon nagkakatalo, doon
Yeah.
nagkakaiba.
Yeah.
Doon
So
magdedesisyon
kailan,
kung
That's true.
sino
oh, you're
masusunod.
in the decision.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So,
Hey, Suzette, ladies and gentlemen, don't want to forget our beautiful guest tonight, our other guest, which is Suzette of Smart Space Interiors. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to greet you earlier, so my apologies on that. But
There's no problem. Oh, well, of
she,
course, I would like to greet our kababayans from
yes,
Las Vegas. Well,
yes,
in the Philippines, good morning from the Philippines. I'm Suzette Carlos. I'm from Space Smart Interiors. We've been doing renovations since 2011, and we've been helping our kababayans transform their investments here in the Philippines into, sometimes into their places where they can retire or something that they
yes,
can earn from. So that's
yes.
basically what we do.
Well, I tell you what, and you
And
did
then-
it, and you did it for me, and I tell
yes,
you,
I
and
did
you
it.
did
Yeah.
it for me. I tell you what,
Richard owns an awesome vacation rental in Tagaytay. It's in one of the best, actually, for me, it's
Thank
one of
you.
the best developments in Tagaytay, the one in Twin Lakes.
Well, I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, it does pay to ask the right people, and these two are the right people. But let me segue real quick. To what Peter and I have been talking about, especially the last few minutes. So Suzette, this is your expertise. Okay, let's just say I'm one of those really excited people. I'm on vacation in the Philippines. And let's just say 3 years ago, I bought a condo from somebody really charismatic who just knocked my socks off and made me sign on the dotted line, right? And so now it's time for me to come home, right? And they're turning over my unit to me, right?
What should be? What
Right.
should they be looking for? Yeah.
Now, here's the problem with this, right? They're actually turning over exactly what? It's four walls. Let's call it what it is, right? Whatever the square meter is, it's four walls of nothingness. Maybe you get a sink, right? It's pretty standard, and a bathroom and stuff like that. But for the most part, people see the model in the mall or some place where and it's so beautiful and it's very enticing and everything, right? But they have no idea how it's put together. What is the quality of the construction, and that's why, it pays to talk to somebody like the both of you, especially with what you do, Suzette. What are some of the things? Let's just say you are walking. This is before I sign, right? To say I'm taking it, right? I should take someone with me, like you, and show me what it is that I should be looking for. What do I need in this unit to actually make it work? Let's talk about that.
Actually, I'm very happy because last episode really, a lot of friends of mine who are working abroad, they sent me messages and asking me questions about it. They're so happy that they've come upon this show kasi maraming concerns and questions about
Yes.
investing in real estate properties in the Philippines.
That's right.
Kanina I was listening to your conversation. My question, before I go into your question,
Yeah.
gusto ko lang i-clear kasi a lot of questions came up about owning. If you are, say, a citizen of U.S. citizen
Yeah,
already,
right.
and not, how many, like, can you own a condominium unit? Or because kanina I listened to what Peter Data said, and nasabi niya na if you're formerly a Filipino citizen,
Yeah.
you can still own land, right? A certain, yeah, because I think there was a case when Richard is talking about of a a U.S. citizen already, of course, formerly a Filipino citizen, bought a lot in Tagaytay, but was told that that she cannot own that property. Am I right?
Yeah, Peter. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's.
But then, according to Peter, you
Yes.
can
Uh
up
huh.
until
Yeah.
1,000 square meters.
Right. Right. Now,
Yes.
Peter, documentation wise, okay, because I went through this and luckily I had some great guidance, but the procedure for me, and just let me know if this is kind of a general. The procedure for me was, you know, because my parents were born here, were born in the Philippines, and so I was allowed to become a dual citizen. Okay, because they were Filipino citizens at the time of my birth. So I was allowed to go to the consulate here and become a dual citizen under that, I guess, bylaw of Congress or whatever, Philippine Congress. And so I became a dual citizen. And because of that, I was actually able to buy land legally. Okay. Now, this person that I spoke to, same situation, bought something in Tagaytay, the place they bought, and did not have dual citizenship, right? U.S. and now they can't own the property, and it's a big it's a litigation right now because they've already put 4 or 5 million in it.
U.S. born.
You That's correct.
U.S.
Filipino,
born.
Filipino,
Oh, U.S.
Filipino, but U.S. born, like me, right?
Okay.
However, in my particular case, because I have a lot of I'm blessed. I have a lot of good people around me. I took the advice and I went and I became a dual citizen, and I followed all of the steps. I really did my my research, but and so my transactions went not flawlessly, but as smooth as you could possibly get. So that's a really, I mean, that's something that people are really not told about. Condominium, yes, that's we understand about that, but actually owning legally a piece of land, like what is it that they need to actually do that?
Okay. I think the first
Thanks, Suzette.
qualification is
Yeah,
you should show a proof that you were born in the Philippines,
right.
or you are a Filipino citizen or dual citizen. If you're born and you're not a dual citizen, you cannot own a property in the Philippines, even if your parents are Filipinos.
Thank you, and that is the
That
common.
answers.
Yeah, that's the common misconception here, and that is
Yeah.
what they're being told. A good majority of our kababayans from all over the world, not just the U.S., are being told when they go back to the Philippines, and let's just say they're UK citizens or New Zealand or from Australia or whatever it is, they're being told, "Oh, you're good. You can own property." That is, it's very scary. It's very very scary what they encounter, and that's the pitfalls,
Yeah.
of what's been
But
going
what
on.
what can foreigners do if they want is they could lease a long term lease. They
Uh
could
huh.
own the property, just like owning a property.
Yeah.
Long-term lease would be in 20-25 years,
Oh,
and
I see.
yeah, that's a possibility. It's a
So
long-term
is
lease,
that
and
leasing? Is that
you could
leasing
also
the
get
land, or
a. I'm sorry.
is that leasing land, Peter, and then
Yeah,
building a
leasing
structure?
leasing the land for the next 25 years. You could do that, and you could also apply for special investors residence visa. I'm not sure if they
I
still
see.
allow that, but
I
at
see.
least there should be like a minimum investment or a deposit of 50,000 US dollars for you to be able to get that visa.
So the maximum number of years that they are allowed to lease a land here in the Philippines is 25,
It's normally 25 years.
25 years.
25 years. Yeah.
Uh,
So that could
Um.
be an alternative to those
Yeah.
who want to stay here and do
Yeah.
business here but cannot
yeah,
buy a
Yeah.
property.
yeah. Or they could get like special investors resident visa where they put in a deposit of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's about uh, I think it's about 50,000 US dollars
Yeah.
for depends on your age. If you are
Yeah.
in the retiring age, it becomes lesser.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
and Peter, that's true. It doesn't matter what country you're from. That's the way it is for foreigners in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
I see.
And regarding your question about what process of documentation, if let's say you decided to buy a property in the Philippines, assuming this is a condominium and it's pre-selling, they would normally ask you to sign a reservation agreement form. All right. And that's
Yes. Yeah.
when
I remember that.
you
Yeah.
formalize your intent to buy a property. So they ask like $500 deposit or $1,000 deposit or $2,000 deposit, non-refundable.
I
So
see.
you are given 30 to 45 days to fulfill your first obligation, which could either be monthly payment,
Right.
okay, or your down payment. So the first form to be filled up is reservation form, and then it comes with your reservation money, and then you need to give a copy of your passport, driver's license,
Yes.
and make sure that that it says where you were born, like a former Filipino, or even foreigners could actually own condominium. And then 30 days, 45 days after, they will send you a contract to sell. That
Yes.
basically is the final contract that states your obligation where you have to sign all pages. Unlike in the US, as far as I could remember, if you're trying to borrow money from the bank, you go to the bank as long as your credit score is good, then right
Yes.
away they make you sign the form and they give you the money right away.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
This one,
It's pretty quick.
you have the contract to sell. All right,
Yeah.
you need to sign it and have it consularized um, in the embassy, Philippine embassy.
Yeah.
Because unless it's not consularized, the developer will not
Yeah.
honor that.
Right.
When
Right.
you were able to fulfill all your obligations, you paid the down payment, you paid all your equity and the turnover balance. The form to be made is the deed of absolute
Deed
sale.
of absolute sale.
Okay.
Yeah, the deed
Okay.
of absolute sale. And then
Yeah.
after the deed of absolute sale, you pay all the taxes. Then the title will be transferred under your name. Okay. However, there are also some
Got it.
developers that even when you pay, you sign the deed of sale already. Sometimes it takes a little longer for them to issue the title, but you have the right to claim the title once you are fully paid.
See, this is why it pays
True.
to
Very true.
talk
And
to you guys.
Now, if let's say for example, you paid 20% equity for 3 years,
Yes.
okay, then the turnover balance is let's say 80 or 70%. Do not. My suggestion is not to borrow money in the Philippines because it takes. You could do that if you want to borrow money in the Philippines. It's just an inconvenience of you have to pay for. You have to give all the closing checks. You need to open a bank account here, and then you have to fund it. But I think what makes sense as an American basically is that the turnover balance can be coursed through by borrowing money there. Like you pull out your equity, or probably you use your 401k or IRR, depends. Or if you have extra money, so that
That's right.
even if you could still write off the tax that you pay there, which you cannot do if you borrow money here in the Philippines.
I
This
think
is true.
most of the
It's true.
banks here do not allow, rarely allows OFWs to borrow money, especially if they're not, they don't have any residence or
They do.
address here in the Philippines. You have to have
They do.
somebody with you, a co-borrower.
Oh, they do. They do. They allow for as long as
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
submit all the proper
You have
documentations.
the proper documentation. Okay.
Right. And then another thing, some, if they couldn't buy, they put it under the name of their relative here. Oops. Don't. No, even if you trust them, you don't know what's gonna happen after.
That's
You
true.
want to secure your investment.
You're right. You're right. No, I'm listen, you know what? I have to tell you guys something. You know what we're talking about today is this is the hard truth. what I call the hard truth for our kababayans. They may not want to hear it, but it's really something they want to hear. They need to hear it, and they need to pay attention.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the one we talk about.
I tell you what, it's true. It's true. You know,
There's more.
I know,
There's
I know.
more.
So are we
More.
gonna have like 6 parts to this show? I think so. I think so.
There's a
But
lot of information that they need to know before
it
they go
is.
into
It is.
investing.
It is. And Suzette, like, okay, so I got to segue back to you because listen,
Okay.
this subject we're going to talk about, my darling, is very, very important. Okay, because, okay, let's just say, you know, I call you up, Suzette, and say, look, you know, I saw you on the show. You know, I'm either buying a property for the first time, pre-sale or whatever it is, condo, let's just say condo, or I am, you know, getting one turned over to me. Let's talk about the first one, okay? If I'm in the pre-selling stages, okay? I call you up, Suzette.
Okay.
This is what I'm thinking about
Okay.
doing.
The
I've already,
problem with
yeah. So walk me through that process. What am I looking for when I'm looking for a pre-selling property that's a condo? What's important?
Okay, when they sell you a condominium unit, they would stage a model unit. So you would, you know, an agent would approach you and they would bring you to a model unit that looks really, really nice. But
Mm-hmm.
you would actually be encouraged to buy. For me, the first thing that you should be looking at is not the model unit. You should be looking at the actual layout of the property before you even decide to buy that property. Because when they stage it into the model unit, it looks very nice, but sometimes you cannot you cannot check, you cannot figure out the actual placement of the spaces in the area, which might not be, be working with your lifestyle. I've already mentioned this in the episode before. That is very important for me because we've been renovating condominium units, and one of the biggest problem is that they do not understand how it works. So, for example, as I've said before, for example, you're somebody who loves to cook, and then you buy this particular condo unit which doesn't have space for the kitchen. Then it becomes problematic because you will be telling your interior designer or your contractor to build you a bigger kitchen. But then, please be reminded that in a condominium unit, all the plumbing, the wiring, and everything else are inside the walls. So although it is possible to move around spaces, make it bigger for you, make a bigger kitchen for you, or make a bigger living room for you, it is expensive because then we have to move the plumbing, the wiring, and the electrical
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you should be looking into is not the model unit. You should be looking into the layout of the unit if it actually fits your lifestyle.
Now, Suzette, one piece of advice that you gave me that was very valuable is when you're looking at a pre-selling, I remember you telling me this distinctly, ask the developer, hey, do you have something close to this in the area that I can look at that's finished? Something empty,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
decorated,
No,
not pretty. So,
Not pretty.
Right.
Yeah, because the pretty actually deceives you into
Yes.
thinking. But that, of course, marketing. That's a marketing style
Right,
for
right, of
them
course.
to actually
course.
encourage you to buy that unit. But I of course, I'm advising you to not look at it and not be swayed by the beauty of the model unit, but actually look at the unit if it will fit your lifestyle. That is very important.
Yeah, yeah,
And then also, when you look around, it's important also to check. Well, if you're pre-selling, you wouldn't be able to check the actual unit. That's impossible for you to see the actual finishes because it's pre-selling. That's the point of it being sold to you on a pre-selling
Yeah.
because you're getting it at a lower cost. But then there's no way for you to see the actual finish. So my advice is that you check the developers track record in terms of you can check the other developments that they made, the units that have been turned over feedback from clients who bought from them, so that you would know if they've submitted, if they've turned over units with good finishes. And
Great
also, of
point.
course, that should you have to be careful also, because plumbing is very important. And everything that everything the wiring, the electrical, everything about the structural um, stability of the unit is very important. So you have to, if you cannot check that in the pre-selling part, then you have to check the track record of the developer.
Yeah.
That is very important.
One thing that I want to point out, and it's just my own, my own personal experience with working, with you, and this is a really great example. Suzette, was in the beginning stages, the planning stages, and actually doing the project and finishing the project. She was in contact with me every step of the way. I still, because of COVID, I still have not seen this beautiful creation that she has done. But I hear from everyone else, that it's pretty fabulous. But one thing she did was she had me, just kind of break down a list of, okay, Richard, this is what's going to happen. This is what your unit looks like. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. Okay. You managed my expectations, which I appreciated that, because I could have had a totally different thing in my mind, of how this was going to go, and I wanted to make it so it would be Airbnb-able, basically, right? And I said, Suzette, I need something that is going to be, ready to go. I don't want to piecemeal it together like it looks like you just threw a bunch of IKEA furniture in this beautiful property and just called it a day, and now you're trying to sell it for hundreds of dollars a night. I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to, being in the hotel business here in Las Vegas for as many years as I have, I understand aesthetics is very important, but you were very much in contact with me every step of the way. And one thing that you did was you said, okay, what's the budget, and we need to keep you at that budget.
Yes,
okay,
that's right.
let's just be realistic. You managed my expectations. And ladies and gentlemen, whether it's going to be Suzette or someone else you guys are comfortable with, you need someone that is going to manage those expectations and take responsibility for what it is that you're trying to put together. And she did just that. I said, I want this, this, and that, and I gave her a budget, and she said, "That's ridiculous. You need to go. That's not going to happen. You need to do this, and we need to do that, because you're going to shortchange yourself." I did listen to her, and in the long run, I wound up saving a lot of money, because can you imagine, to Peter's point earlier, you're always going to get kamag-anak, you're always going to get the auntie, the brother, and oh yeah, bahala sila, marunong si whatever, marunong si ganon, nag-interior design school si ganon, right? We always get that in our family, and it turns out to be what? A complete disaster. An absolute complete disaster. I gave a potential client to Suzette, matter of fact, someone very dear to me. He was kind of outvoted in his family, and what happened was, at the end of the day, he spent more money than he should have, and they put 3 air conditioners that did not fit in his unit.
I think looking for the perfect developer, perfect property is the same as looking for the perfect contractor or interior designer for your unit. They have to check out the history of that developer or that contractor or interior designer. They have to don't just keep jumping on conclusions on getting people or buying properties. You have to check their track record. It's very important, especially if you are abroad and you cannot actually see what's going on. So finding the reliable developer, the most reliable contractor is very, very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Guys, we have about 10 minutes to go on the show. And one thing that I'm going to ask both of you to do this, because it's so important. I wish I could dedicate 12 13 episodes to the show, just to you guys, because let me just tell you, you guys are. This is a topic that is endless. It's a topic that needs to be talked about. Every family, let me just tell you, I don't care how old they are. They could be in their 20s. Every family needs to see these episodes and see and talk to you guys and listen to you guys. One thing I would really, really love to see, and I'm just putting this out there for the both of you, is do a blog together. Do a podcast together. Okay, on this subject. Because
Filipinos abroad need it.
Because they need it. We need it. We need it. Because, like for instance, in the US, you're not considered an OFW. Guess what? Of course we are. Wouldn't you agree,
Richard,
Peter? Of course we are. Right?
Richard,
Yes.
do you mean we need to do a blog together?
Well,
You're part of it.
listen, yes, but you know what? I am. Listen, I am. It's my honor to have to help along both of you to get this knowledge out there. But seriously, I'm being very serious. I'm personally asking you, for the people that are watching, this is so necessary, and the people that are doing these types of programs and blogs and things like that are the developers themselves. And as Peter said, and it's true, that's not really helping anybody. It's all fluff. It's all beautiful and it's all, pretty and everything else. But this right here, this is the nuts and bolts. This is the business behind the decisions that our kababayans make. Yes, okay, now I'm going to buy the property. Now what? To Peter's point. Now what am I going to do? Right?
But there are actually good developers that
Right.
you could.
Right.
Okay, but here's the thing to consider when you're buying a property. Number one, it starts with a flyer, a nice flyer.
Oh, yes.
Number two,
Uh-huh.
beautiful brochure.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit down with them, they show you a nice
Walkthrough.
visual presentation, the AVP, the walkthrough.
Yes.
The fourth is they show you the model unit, the virtual model unit.
Yeah.
All right. And the fifth is a powerful, charismatic sales agent.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 5 things that would make you say yes to buying
Yeah.
the property.
Yes.
But always remember, stick with your purpose, stick with your goal, with your objective. In choosing a property, what comes first, sometimes it becomes second, is location.
Yeah.
Okay. In real estate, it's always location. But
Yeah.
nowadays, it's changing. It's still location, but
Yeah.
if you live abroad, you consider the developer, the
Yeah.
track record. You need to find out if the developer delivers a project with
Yeah.
quality, good craftsmanship, a good brand. They have developed several projects already. The credibility of the developer, not on the basis of the salesman alone, because the salesman was able to serve you well, because sometimes that could be subjective.
Now, Peter,
right.
on the last few minutes of the show, I'm going to ask you, Peter. Let's just say, I've seen the program, okay, and I'm coming home to the Philippines, and I contact you before I go to the Philippines, right? Okay, and I want to consult you on some things. How many days, okay, should I set aside to meet with you and meet with someone like Suzette? You know what I'm saying? So let's just say I wanted to meet with you first, because you're going to be the one to guide me into, like, okay, you're going to be asking me those questions, like, okay, what are you looking for? Like, what are you doing here? What's the purpose, right? All those important questions, right? And then we go out. How many days would you say I need to dedicate to doing that, to spending time with you or one of your associates?
10, 15 days at least, let's say.
That makes sense. Now, are you just located in the metro, or do you have some associates that that people can meet with in the provinces?
Right. Well, actually, they could come to my restaurant. and we could have like lunch here
Let's
or
talk
dinner.
about that real quick. So real quick,
Let's talk
okay?
about our restaurant.
Tell me real quick about your restaurant. Let's plug that. I'm so proud of you, man.
Well, it's actually a restaurant that we just opened. It's called La Belle Dining, and we have La Belle Cakes. It's actually a business of my wife that I help her build up, and this is where I hold my office. And
Congratulations.
it's we offer like great Italian foods. We're good in pasta and
Wow.
steak.
And where is
And
it? Where is it located?
is in BF Parañaque.
In Parañaque. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
All
we
right.
customize cakes like
Okay.
the pastries and the croissants. Yeah, that's what we do.
And listen, I'm probably I'm probably going to be going on in September. So should I make a reservation now? You better get a table for me.
You don't even have to just call me. Just come, just come in.
All right. And
We will
no.
be there this weekend.
And yeah,
Oh yeah.
listen,
They're
I
We'll
want
be visiting you this weekend.
I want pictures, Suzette. You better be like, posting like crazy. Peter, I'm so happy for you and your wife. Congratulations. Entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen, not only a real estate mogul, but also a restaurant mogul as well. I mean, that's amazing. Suzette, so last few minutes of the show. So let's just say, Peter, has helped them. They've gotten the property that they want to get and everything else. How many days do they spend with you? What's that look like? Meeting with you and your staff to get things prepared.
No, actually, they don't. Well, a couple of days. We
Couple
just
of
need
days.
to talk about. What's important for me is that they be clear with their purpose
Right.
and what they want. Yes, and then if they decide, if for example they decide to purchase it, or they already have a unit, we can talk about the renovations or turning into something that they would want to stay in
Yeah.
or would want to earn from.
Yeah.
Probably they can look around. Usually for design development, I give them 2 weeks to think
Yeah.
about it, to talk to me, to discuss the things that they want to put in the unit. It starts basically with what they want, their objectives in wanting to buy that property. And I'm here. You can call me anytime. You can do Zoom meetings if they are busy.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm always ready to help, our kababayans do something with the investment that they have here in the Philippines.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys very, very much. I can't tell you how much it means to not only our kababayans, but to me personally, that you guys made yourselves available. I know you're both busy, but what we're doing, the three of us are bringing forth to our kababayans is so valuable and so helpful, and it will save a lot of headache for a lot of people, and very, very helpful. Listen, I'm not going to say this is our last episode on this because that would be lying. We need to talk more about this, but I do encourage both of you. Perhaps maybe when I'm in the Philippines in September. Wow, we need to have an event or something. Invite the OFWs who are interested to come hear you guys speak. You guys have so much to share, so much experience between the both of you, that everyone in all walks of life, our kababayans, whatever profession they're in, they need it. They need to hear this stuff because ultimately everyone wants to go back to the Philippines. That's the dream. They just need a plan. That's what they don't have. They don't have the right plan. And with the two of you, you guys provide that. But anyway, that being said, I want to thank everybody from all over the world that's tuning in tonight. I appreciate you tuning in to I Love Seniors. And ladies and gentlemen, thank my guest tonight, Mr. Peter Data, and also the lovely Suzette Carlos. Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, and looking forward to seeing you guys again.
See you again.
All right, and
Mabuhay ang Pilipino.
Mabuhay ang Filipino. That's right. And for I Love Seniors, this is your host, Richard Aguila, signing off. Thank you.